Alaikum, hello, and welcome to all of you in today's session on Benami Transactions Prohibition Rules. This is in continuation of our last session on Benami Transactions Prohibition Act 2017. Just bear with me for a second. Let me turn on my cam so you guys can see me as well. I hope you can all see me now. Okay, let's proceed. So today's session on the rules basically form the essential part of the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act's practicality. We covered the act in the last session and did mention about the rules which are to be covered in today's session. So first things first, a warm welcome to all of you in today's session on behalf of the entire team. ACCA has organized this CPD to ensure that during these times you can invest in yourselves, keep yourself up to date, and especially in this important arena that's been constantly mentioned by our members regarding the local laws and taxation. We can work to actually enhance your skills. Is my voice quality fine? Nizam, can you hear me clearly?
Crystal clear, sir.
Pardon?
Your sound audio is perfectly clear.
Okay, just bear with me for a sec. Let me adjust the fan settings. Okay, guys, back with you. First things first, let's begin with the formal intro. By now, as a result of you attending various CPDs and more so the current ongoing CPD program, I'm sure many of you would already be aware of my introduction, but still, for those who are attending for the first time, I will briefly introduce myself. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. O Allah, open my heart and ease my task for me and remove the impediments from my speech so that they may understand what I say. My name is Omar Zahir Mir. I'm honored to be the chair of ACCA's MNP and Taxation Subcommittee. I also sit on the editorial board of ACCA's regional publication Policy Insights for the entire Middle East and South Asia region. I'm also part of several other initiatives of ACCA, including the Professional Experts Forum, the Mentors Group, the Six Digit Program, etc. I'm also honored to be representing Pakistan on the Global Tax Forum too. In addition to this, I'm a life member, twice serving current chairman of Finance and Economic Affairs Liaison Committee of Lahore Tax Bar, and previously have served 4 times as the chairman of the Liaison Committee of the same. I'm also honored to be sitting on the board of several think tanks and corporate entities. I'm a fellow chartered certified accountant, CFA charter holder, chartered accountant, BFP, CPFA, with any anti-money laundering, fraud risk management specialization, and several other certifications. Professionally, have 17 years plus fund of experience gained by working in top management positions, both abroad as well as in Pakistan. Presently, in addition to sitting on the board of several corporate entities, I'm mainly the managing partner for taxation and corporate services at Millennium Law and Corporate Company, MLCC, which happens to be the pioneer ACC practicing and law firm in Pakistan. My portfolio as a trainer includes having conducted mandatory promotional trainings of government officers at MPDD, professional trainings at the likes of National Bank of Pakistan, HPL, MCB, PPCBL, Lahore Karachi Tax Bar, Pakistan Tax Bar, Lahore Karachi Chambers, IBP in collaboration with the State Bank of Pakistan, Bahria University, UAT. Last but not the least, our very own ACCA. And I'm also a regular contributor with my articles being published in various English language dailies on these technical subjects, which you can always find on my blog site, umarzahirmir.wordpress.com. So that's pretty much about me. Let's move forward. I'm going to skip the next few slides showing the existing clients association listing of academic professional qualifications and major strengths, as well as MLCC's intro. Um, but do check out this link in the presentation that you'll be getting. This is something we are very humbled by, and something that can serve as a huge motivating factor for you guys. Our firm MLCC was profiled by ACCA, and it was published, a report on it was published. So do have a look on this, and if you are planning to come into practice and need any guidance, feel free to contact. Professional acknowledgements, several legislations, and other reports of the FBR and MLCC have been used in the development of today's presentation. Due to limited time and the extensive volume of the topic, we'll strive to cover the maximum possible content within the available time. However, if needed, the content coverage will be prioritized to suit the requirement and constraints of today's sessions. Okay, guys, so Benami Transaction Prohibition Rules 2019. Before we proceed, in the last session and previously in some sessions, we have discussed the relationship of the act or ordinance with the rules. So why not have some feedback from our learned attendees today? What do you guys think is the relationship of rules with regard to the main body of the law? Why do we even need the rules, and what purpose do they serve? You can type your feedback in the Q&A box or the chat box that you have in the relevant panel. So Rashid Hanif, your name is still appearing as Radid Hanif, but I remembered you. So I do remember your name is Rashid. In the next registration, just be careful. Just sort this out. So Rashid is saying rules are also a type of a law or something like that. Okay. Nizam,
Sir,
your domain, my friend. Please read all the comments and the name of our learned participants.
okay, Rashid Hanif, rules are also a type of a law or something like that. Hafiz Muhammad Faisal, rules define execution and ordinance or act are general laws. Amna Sami,
Mhm,
rules are the detailed procedures available, practical implementation of the act. Adil Nasir, for
mhm.
practical understanding of the ordinance, rules have to be understood. Rao Ali Zishan, laws are the ideals and proclamations in principle. Rules are the nut and bolts and the steps for executions. Muhammad Ali Sami,
Okay,
rules
very
provide
interesting, Rao Saab. Very interesting example. Please carry on.
Muhammad Ali Sami, rules provide practical steps in order to implement law. Uh, Saqib, Muhammad Saqib, how to comment? You are already commenting, my friend. Uh,
Sakib, just
Rashid,
like you write, hang on. Sakib, just like you wrote how to comment, you can just write your comment there. Ask your question there or give your feedback there. Please carry on.
Rashid Hanif, rules are detailed description of any ordinance or act. So that's all,
Thank
Muhammad
you.
Saqib.
Okay, Saqib Ali Rashdi, rules are the procedure of laws to be implemented, and Saad bin Khalid, rules are SOPs for implementation of acts. Okay, the good thing is many of our members, especially those who attended the last session, have retained and have a good concept of what rules are for, which is fantastic. Yes, rules should the practical implications, and I gave an example last time citing that it's not like for like, and it's not even remotely similar, but because we belong, most of the attendees belong from a certain culture, so things are better understood in the cultural context. And then I gave you the example of the injunctions in the Holy Quran and then their elaboration in the Hadith. So it's nothing similar, again a disclaimer, but just only for the purpose of understanding the concept. The main law only give you the law, the injunction, and the rules tell you how to go about the practicalities and the modalities, how the things would actually work. So let's go back to our presentation. And by the way, while I'm gonna be continuing with the presentation, please download the Benami Prohibition Rules 2019 that have been provided in the handout section and the copy of today's presentation. You would need to refer to them. If you have any problem, just type in your chat box and our support team would be happy to provide you the links for the direct download. But please open them at your end so you'll be comfortable referring to what I'll be talking. Still, I'll be opening the prohibition rules myself on the screen while sharing with you, so that should still be comfortable for you. Anyway, the Benami transactions prohibition rules were introduced on 11th March 2019. So almost 2 years after the act came into force, the rules were introduced, and these rules were enforced with immediate effect. So the practical modalities started happening on the 11th of March 2019. And what happened practically was that FBR's Inland Revenue Service tasked the BTB broadening of tax-based zones with the duty to investigate and thereafter establish cases regarding Benami properties. And the aim was that this should lead to the submission of challans to the adjudication authority within 120 days. We have previously read about having 90 days period after the show cause notice, um, and then the further 30 days period. So the total time period for submission of challan to the adjudication authority is 120 working days. So during this period, the sale, purchase, and transfer of property will normally be stopped till further orders. Appeal against any adverse decision of the adjudication authority can be lodged with the federal tribunal. Excuse me. And after the decision of the federal tribunal, such properties will be confiscated, pay attention, and sold out by the federal government. Furthermore, if the crime of Benami transactions is proved, the confiscation is not all. We have read about this and discussed about this in the last session. When I say yesterday, that refers to the previous session. So we discussed there that there are three-pronged punishments, to say the least: the confiscation of the property, the imposition of the fine, and the prosecution with possible jail terms. So that's exactly what's been referred here. So furthermore, if the crime of Benami transaction is proved, criminal proceedings will be initiated against accused persons, and where proven guilty, rigorous imprisonment of 1 year to 7 years can be awarded to such person. And remember, we also discussed in the session on the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act that similarly any person providing false and baseless information can also be sentenced to rigorous imprisonment of 6 months to 5 years. So another thing that we briefly referred to in the act session and which you should keep in mind is that the concept of whistleblowers was introduced. I believe being qualified professionals, chartered, certified accountant, you'll all be aware of what a whistleblower is. So let those comments come in. Let me see what you guys think. I'll be giving you guys about a minute to type in your responses. Nobody knows what whistleblower is. How to comment? Sakib Sahab, you can comment the same way you are already doing, where you are typing how to comment. That's exactly where you'll type in your comment. Okay, guys, I'll wait 10 more seconds and then I'll answer this myself, assuming that all our learned participants unfortunately do not know what a whistleblower is. Okay, someone is typing. So let's see. You need to be quick because it's a time constraint session, so we can't wait for much longer. Okay, so I'll just continue. A whistleblower is basically someone who tips off about some wrongdoing. So, in this regard, about the Benami that we are talking about, in this context, the whistleblowers will be rewarded, will be entitled to a cash reward for providing credible information leading to detection and confiscation of a Benami property or transaction. So, the benefit normally is about 5%. So, if a property is worth 2 million or less, 5% of the price of the Benami will be given to the informer. If the property is worth more than 2 million, then it would come down to 4% that would be given to the informer. And where the value is more than 5 million, only 3% would be given. But think about it. If it's like a property, an average property in a good location, um, 3 to 5 crores. So that means 3 crore into 3%. Do the maths. There you go. Not bad. Anyway, there are some conditions. Number one, it is clarified that this reward will be given only if the information provided is of value and FBR doesn't already have it. If they already have it, no, sorry, you don't qualify. If they don't have it, but it doesn't lead somewhere, sorry, hard luck. And if the information is already in public record, sorry, hard luck. And if the appeal against confiscation of property doesn't attain finality or goes against the department, sorry, hard luck. So it's only after they have actually confiscated the property and the decision has attained finality and the information was not already with them, the information was not in public record, and the information was actually valuable, leading to the prosecution and the finality of FPR's decision, only then you'll get the reward. Anyway, the reward is just to encourage being a good Samaritan, a responsible citizen. We should all be able to report anyway. So let's start with the actual act, actual rules, Benami transaction prohibition rules. I've also opened up the act and the income tax ordinance because there are some cross references and I would like to show you those as well. So let's start with the rules now. Excuse me. So as you can see, the date on the rules document that's been shared with you as a PDF file is 11th of March 2019. It was issued by the Revenue Division, Federal Board of Revenue of Government of Pakistan. And the SRO number is SRO 3261 of 2019. In exercise of the powers conferred by Section 61 of the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 27, number 5 of 2017, the federal government is pleased to make the following rules. You would have seen this when we go through various legislation that there is always cross-reference. This is a basic thing. Section 61 basically allowed the federal government to make rules. The parliament gave that power to the federal government to make the relevant rule for this relevant legislation. But let me just quickly show you the Section 61. This is the act. I told you I've opened it because there are some cross references and I wanted you to see how they can actually be cross referenced and just find out, even if you have missed the previous session, that what we are talking about. So here comes the Section 61, and it simply states that the federal government may by notification in the official gazette make rules for carrying out the provisions of this act. So the purpose, the authority vested with who, and the process to make the rules has all been mentioned and followed. So this is the official gazette in which the government of Pakistan notified. So section 1 of the rules state simply the introduction. That is normally the case with any body of legislative document. It says short title and commencement. These rules shall be called the Benami Transaction Prohibition Rules 2019 and come into force at once, which means the date on this which this was issued. So the rules came into force on 11th March 2019. Now, before we proceed, I have a very interesting question for you. We are aware that the act was promulgated in 2017 and the rule only became relevant, available. They will always be relevant unless superseded. Um, they only became public and were notified in 2019. So the question is that the act mentioned that the Benami cases would fall within the purview of the act from the date on or after the date of the commencement of the act, whereas the rules only came into being in 2019. So now my question is, can the Benami cases since commencement of the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 2017 be covered within the Benami Transaction Prohibition Rules 2019? And you simply have to answer that via the poll that is now appearing on your screen, and you can select one of the two options, yes or no. And your time starts now. I'll give you about 2 minutes to answer this poll. Okay, very good. We have started getting votes. Okay, quick. Many people are saying yes, but we have a good number saying no, 13%, 20%. Okay, it's getting interesting and closer than the beginning, and the demographic is constantly changing. Now, about 27% are saying no, and 73 yes. Okay, carry on, guys. You still have 1 minute, 20 seconds. Keep those responses coming. Okay, we have reached about 58 seconds and it's almost 74 to 20. Okay, Nizam, the total is going haywire. I think that's a rounding error.
Maybe, sir.
Okay, guys, last 35 seconds remaining. Come on, guys, come on. The yes group is winning at the moment. They have casted 74% votes in favor of yes. Okay. And while we are getting additional votes, it's largely staying the same. Come on, guys, vote. You have your time. Last few seconds, and then we'll close the poll. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's up. So the poll results are, I think there is a rounding error because it's showing 76% as yes and 27 as no, and that would go up to 103. So we can roughly say that about 75% said yes and 25% said no. Okay, the 25% who said no might have said that since the rules were not into being, how can the cases attract them? But remember, the rules derived their applicability from the act, and the act came into being in 2017. So any cases on or after the date of 2017 would still be liable to the legal purview. So congratulations to the people who voted yes, because they voted correctly, and congratulations still to the people who voted no. Why? The answer was not correct because they got to learn something new, and hopefully they would not forget this now. So let's go back to the main body of the rules that we were discussing. Section 2, as normally is the case in many legislation drafts, deal with the definitions. It says that in these rules, unless there is anything repugnant in the subject or context, the act would mean a reference to the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 2017, which is very common sense. Very much a matter of common sense. Chapter would mean a chapter of the act, section would mean a section of the act. It's all common sense, but law doesn't believe in only common sense. It wants to have everything written down in black and white. So words and expressions used but not defined in these rules shall have the same meaning as assigned thereto in the Trusts Act 1882, Succession Act 1925, Partnership Act 1932, Income Tax Ordinance 2001, Anti-Money Laundering Act 2010, and the Companies Act 2017. So the rules might have terms which have been taken from these legislations but not defined herein, and they would have the meaning that's been given to them in their respective original legislation drafts as being referred to here. Section 3 of the rules deals with the jurisdiction of administrator, initiating officer, and approving authority under subsection 2 of section 15. And this is being referred to the relevant sections of the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act, which I've shown you already, and a copy of which you would have. If you don't, send me a message on LinkedIn and I'll share that with you guys. Okay, guys, this is very important because now these modalities at times come really handy. If the authorities haven't acted as per their actual jurisdiction, the entire matter can go haywire on technical grounds. So it is imperative that you pay attention and are aware of these modalities. So the board may, subsection 1 of section 3 states, the board may by an order assign any commissioner in land revenue to exercise the powers and perform the functions of approving authority under the provisions of this act and the rules. Subsection 2 states that the board may by an order also can assign, obviously, any deputy commissioner inland revenue to exercise the powers and perform the functions of initiating officers under the provisions of the act and these rules. If you remember, in the last session I did tell you that the approving authority would be the commissioner normally, and the IO, initiating officer. It's not the criminal or civil investigation officer, sorry, criminals. It is IO, same abbreviation, but herein the IO means the initiating officer. And as I mentioned to you in the last session, it would normally be the deputy commissioner by virtue of board's authority. The board may also by an order assign any assistant commissioner to exercise the powers and perform the functions of the administrator who would administer the property should the need arise. Section 4, determination of price in certain cases. So you have to determine the price of a property or the transaction in dispute. It can be a movable or immovable property. We are certainly, when we are referring to the transaction or the property, we are referring to the Benami one. Don't lose sight of the context what we are discussing here. Determination of price in certain cases. Subsection 1 states that for the purposes of subclause B of clause 15 of section 2, the price, that is a reference to the main act. The price shall be determined in accordance with the provisions of section 68 of the income tax ordinance and rules made thereunder to the extent applicable under the act. Now you can see how the rules are referring to the main body of the law, which is the act. It is constantly referring to the sections of the act. And I've already shown you how you can cross refer to income tax ordinance, but since determination of price is such a critical element, and I believe till now we are right on track in terms of time, I'll just quickly show you what we are talking about. So section 4 of the rules has stated that the price determination shall be in accordance with the provision of section 68. So let's have a look at the section 68 of the income tax ordinance. So section 68 deals with the fair market value, and that's on page 118, which should be roughly around 142. There you go. Section 68, fair market value. Now remember, this forms an essential part of determining the values under the legislation that we just referred to. So while this is from the income tax ordinance, now it forms a part of the relevant rules because it's been referred to here as such. So in essence, basically, for the purposes of this ordinance, fair market value of any property, rent, asset, service, benefit, or perquisite at a particular point in time shall be the price which the property, rent, asset, service, benefit, or perquisite, no surprise for qualified accountants, would ordinarily fetch on sale or supply in the open market at that time. And if you can recall, this is exactly the definition you have been studying throughout your lives of an arm's length transaction, which is the fair market value. The fair market value of any property or rent, asset, service, benefit, or perquisite shall be determined without regards to any restriction on transfer or to the fact that it is not otherwise convertible to cash. If there is any restriction, you'll assume there is no restriction. And what would be the fair market value then? And that would be the value that would be the deemed value in case of a Benami transaction or property, where the price other than the price of an immovable property referred to in subsection 1 is not ordinarily ascertainable, such price may be determined by the commissioner. If there is no way, no FBR value, no market value, then the commissioner has the discretionary power to determine the price, and they can write down that under what mechanism they have determined it. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsections 1 and 3, the board may from time to time by notification in the official gazette determine the fair market value of immovable property of the area or areas as may be specified in the notification. So this is a reference to the FBR values. Where the fair market value of any immovable property of an area or areas has not been determined by the board in the notification referred to in subsection 4 that we just discussed, the fair market value of such immovable property shall be deemed to be the fixed value, the value fixed by the DC, district officer revenue, or provincial or any other authority in this behalf for the purpose of stamp duty. So you can safely say if you don't have the fair market value, the FBR value, then you'll resort to the DC value or the values notified for the purposes of stamp duty. In respect of immovable property, okay, this is just a formula. It forms the essentials. Anyway, you have seen more of or less how to determine the fair market values. So I'll revert back to the rules now. And before we talk about appointment of chairpersons and members for it, of the adjudicating authority, now is a good time to take your questions. You'll have about 30 seconds to start typing in your questions and I'll answer them. Meanwhile, you can see, Nizam, if we already have any question that's not been answered, you can read them. Fawad has mentioned that he missed the last session. Don't worry, Fawad, you'll receive quarterly emails about all the sessions that are being done. And there's also another way you can actually make use of this resource. Basically, the aim has been to allow you to develop your skills, your professional abilities, and yourselves during these uncertain and very rare times that we are currently going through of the COVID-19 pandemic. On a sideline, we hope that you are taking all the necessary precautions and staying home unless necessary, and even if going out for a necessity, taking all necessary precautions. So the aim has been to allow you to have this facility to convert this pandemic, the free time that you suddenly find at your disposal, convert that into a blessing by providing you all these resources. So in lieu of this, recordings of these sessions as well as other CPDs would also be available on my social media channels. Mostly people prefer to use YouTube. So you can go on YouTube and you can just type in my name, Omar Zahir Mir, and you can see all the videos there. They are available to you. You can go through them. If you have missed any session, you can actually catch up on that. If you want to look at the training for maybe another session, you can look at that. Similarly, ACC also has a channel at YouTube, but now the recordings of these channels, to my knowledge, are not uploaded there. They are instead uploaded at a different platform, which would also be shared with you. So if you are more comfortable with that, you can avail that. If you are comfortable with YouTube, or you are in a rush, you want it more quickly, in a few days time, you can go subscribe to the channel. And I would say one thing: don't just keep it to yourself, spread it in your circle. Knowledge is a blessing. Share it with your colleagues, with your friends, everyone. Let everyone help develop their professional skills, so together we can give back to the profession and the wider society at large. If you have any query even after the session, you can engage with me on social media. The best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. I'll be sharing my contact details though. So, do we have any questions by now?
We have a few questions, sir. The
Okay,
first
great.
one being from Mohammed Wasim Akhtar.
Mhm.
Who should we report these frauds to if your line manager is involved as well?
FBR. You will go find out the relevant officer at FBR. Better to disclose them and meet them in person first, rather than just sending simply a letter to them. Next one.
Mohammed Saqib Rafiq, how will be ascertained that FPR did not have that information which was whistleblowed?
Okay, that's a good question, Wasim. It's our national duty. Being a good citizen, we should be doing it anyway. Whistleblowing incentive is just what the name says, an incentive. However, to answer your question, the FBR will tell you that. And normally it would be tougher for them not to say the right thing, because everything needs to be documented. I'm not saying there are not ways to get around that, but that's the process at the moment. And we should hope that, especially with the younger professional lot coming in, the things are changing at the various national institutions, including the taxman. Hope that answers the question. Next one.
Rashid Hanif, sir, actually who make these rules, federal government, revenue division or FPR?
Well, the purview is with the federal government, and revenue division is a division of the government of Pakistan, and FPR is a department within that division. So it is like you have a company, ABC Private Limited, and ABC Private Limited has division A, which is at department X. So when a department X releases something, who has released that? Obviously, your division and the company both. Department X is a part of them, and the company asked the division to ask department X to do that. Make sense? Great. Next one.
Hussain Hadi.
Rashid, hang on. Rashid, don't be so gloomy. Um, it actually brought a smile to my face after listening to my answer about the whistleblower thing. Rashid said, so in other words, no rewards. I would say to you, "Pevasta rahe shajar se ummeed bahar rakh." And reward or no reward, do your national duty, though I'll hope that you'll be getting some rewards. Next.
Hussain Hadi, I would like to ask if a person buys the property due to any reason, register the property to his family members. Can it cover in Benami property? Beneficiary of the asset is someone else who had purchased the property and had its documents.
What was the name of the person who asked the question?
Hussain Hadi.
Hussein Sab, it's a very good question. I think perhaps you missed out the last session, but don't worry. Inshallah, the recording will be available on the YouTube channel next week. And in fact, a new video is being made public on it every day. So go check it out. This question was discussed extensively. Um, we have a limited time today, but I'll try to do one thing. If at the end of the session we still have some time left, just remind me about your question and I'll answer this again. But otherwise, you can see the recording of the last session. Unfortunately, you won't be able to ask live questions there, but these questions have been answered there. So you'll get a good idea. Plus, your knowledge of the entire act would be updated as well. Even after watching the session recording, if you feel you need to consult or get some guidance, send me a message on my LinkedIn and I'll be more than happy to answer you. It might be that I might not immediately respond because I'm busy with so many things, but I make an effort to reply each and every one. Sometimes the load is a lot and one or two message might get buried, but send me a reminder and I will get back to you. Next one.
Mohammed Ejaz, Benami Transactions Prohibition Rules 2017 will only be applicable within Pakistan. What about the properties abroad?
Well, Pakistan only has jurisdiction in Pakistan. Na? For property abroad, we have different set of rules. We have Anti-Money Laundering Act, we have collaborations with other countries, we have FATF, we have international watchdogs, we have a NAB that's functioning. There are many platforms for there. Next one.
Rao Ali Zishan has a input for us. One can approach the FBR intelligence department rather than going to find the CID/TCIT where no reference has been filed yet.
You can approach the FBR intelligence department, but a separate department has been created out of the BTB officers, and FBR claims that these are some of their best officers that were available and at their disposal. So these are the officers who would actually be investigating. So I think a more practical approach would be meet the officer too, and when you share with the officer, a copy should be served to FBR intelligence too. So you cover both the theoretical and the practical basis. Hope that answers the question. And thanks for the addition, Rao. Next one.
Babar Ali, if a person having a lot of plots and shops with heavy value, but his income is too low and not matched with his assets, a person is non-filer, whether this will be considered as Benami property.
What you have described alone would not. It would fall under section 111. Undisclosed income and asset rules would apply on it, and there are serious repercussions for it. These can still be Benami depending on whether they meet the conditions as described in the Benami Transaction Prohibitions Act. If you want to discuss something specific, I don't think this is appropriate forum, neither due to time restriction and because we have to take everyone together and the topic we have to stay relevant, but also for confidentiality. So again, approach me on my LinkedIn profile, send me a direct message there, and I'll respond to you. Next one.
So those will be all for now.
Fantastic. So we have answered all the relevant questions, which is pretty good. And it means that we can go back to our presentation. Okay, so let's continue from where we left off. Subsection 5, no, we have already covered subsection 1 of section 4. Section 5, appointment of chairperson and members of adjudicating authority. Secretary Revenue Division shall forward to the federal government a panel of suitable officers who are qualified as per criteria provided for in subsection 3 of section 6. Now, which section is this? We are only in section 5. So which section can this be? Act or here? The rules. Come on, guys, think. Section 6 does not have any subsection 3. It is referring to the main legislation of Benami Transaction Prohibition Act. And if you attended the last session, you could remember that. Let me show you too. This is the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act, and this is section 6. And you can see that subsection 3 of section 6 mentions the qualifications for the relevant position. to be a chairperson or member of the adjudicating authority. So in line with these requirements, somebody who qualify as per these and is an officer of the Federal Board of Revenue, their names would be forwarded by the Secretary Revenue Division to the federal government for approval, and the federal government shall then notify them, appoint them, and from amongst that panel, the federal government shall appoint one chairperson and as many members as it deems fit for the adjudicating authority. So, Section 6 deals with the terms and conditions of the service of the chairpersons and members of the adjudicating authority. We'll also be discussing that what would happen if somebody resigns or if the number is not complete. Due to these technicalities, would the proceedings be deemed null and void, or the proceedings would retain their sanctity? Let's find out. So first things first, for the purposes of subsection 1 of section 10, the chairperson and members of the adjudicating authority shall respectively be entitled to the pay allowances and other benefits as mentioned here. So everything is being made quite transparent. The chairperson would have pay allowances and other benefit as admissible prior to his appointment under Rule 5 of the pay allowances and other benefits, admissible immediately before his retirement, and in addition to that pay allowance and benefit that officer was already receiving, they would get an additional monthly adjudicating authority allowance of 300,000. So if somebody was previously getting say 3 lakh, 4 lakh, something like this, whatever, then they'll start getting an additional 3 lakh. They would still get their old package and this by virtue of being appointed on this position. And the members, in addition to their previous pay allowances, would receive a monthly adjudicating authority allowance of 200,000. So basically, they have tried to make this as lucrative as possible while remembering the services rules to ensure that people would focus on their work and would feel that their financial needs are properly taken care of. Section 7 deals with the provisional attachment. In the Act, we have discussed that the investigating officer can forward to the officer their reasoning and the case they have made and go for the provisional attachment, and later on there can be an extension in the attachment. Anyway, for provisional attachment, the initiating officers shall provisionally attach any property in the manner provided in Part 2 and Part 3 of Chapter 16 of the Income Tax Rules 2002. So basically that deals with how the properties are normally attached, a notice is sent, etc., etc. And that similar process would be used in the case of the provisional attachment for the Benami properties or transactions. Section 8, perhaps one of the most interesting sections because it deals with the confiscation of property under subsection 1 of section 25. God forbid, the worst case scenario for anyone. Okay. By the way, before we proceed, do you guys think it's a just punishment to confiscate the property in addition to imposing a fine and prosecution with the jail term? Usman Parvez is saying yes. Okay. Muhammad Khan is saying yes. Muhammad Ijaz is saying no. Okay. Okay, I'll take one yes and one no. So can you open up Muhammad Ijaz Saab's mic so we can speak with him? Assalamu alaikum Ijaz Saab. Please get ready. Unmute you from yourself so you can speak. Okay, we are getting yes, yes, yes. Kailash, yes. Fasi, yes. Mojis, yes. Wasim, yes. Ishan, yes. Okay.
Mohammad Ijaz, could you unmute yourself?
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam, Ijaz Saab. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. What about you?
I'm very well, thank you. Are you enjoying the session today?
Sir, exactly.
How's the lockdown treating you? Staying at home or going to offices?
Not, sir. Yes, not getting to office at home, sir.
Okay, great. So Ijaz sir, you have said no, that this is not a just punishment. Why?
Sir, I think the confiscation of the property and just imposing 25% of the value of the property as a fine is not as a fair punishment, because
Hmm.
this property might have been got through tax evasions or money laundering or corruptions, and if just confiscating that money or and making a 25% fine, how can this be justified? This could be more
Oh,
than that,
so
because this is only the money we are getting, the public money getting back from that person.
so you want it
We-
to be even tougher. But have you
Yes,
forgotten the prosecution and jail term? It's not just the confiscation of property and the fine. There's also the provision of prosecution and jail term. So three
yes, sir.
prongs.
Yes, sir. I exactly know is the 1 to 7 years.
Okay. So what more you want to kill them? Mean, what else you want? Mean
Sir,
the property is
at least
being
at least
confiscated,
the at least 100% of the property additional to the
fine is being
confiscation.
imposed, and they are sent to jail.
Sir,
Mhm.
I guess
Go
there
ahead.
should be 100%. I suggest there should be 100% fine equal to the property value, confiscation of the property, and not less than 15 years of the jail.
Okay, okay.
But
Thank you very much, Ijaz.
if there is no deterrent of the law rules or punishment, how the people will stop doing that.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good perspective. Thank you, Ijaz. Okay, so basically Ijaz Saab said no, but he was a yes. So his no meant that this is too lenient. Okay, let's take the first one who answered live. That's Usman Parvez. Nizam Saab, can you unmute Usman, please?
Usman, you need to unmute yourself, please, and we'll be able to ask the question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Usman, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, sir. Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to have you in the session today.
Thank you, sir. It's my
Are
pleasure.
you enjoying?
Yes, sir. I'm definitely enjoying this.
Okay, now let's come to the point, Usman. It's great you are enjoying, and that's our aim. You have listened to Ijaz Saab. He says, no, the punishments are too lenient. But you, along with the majority, are satisfied. So why are you satisfied? Don't you think Ijaz Saab is right? It should be even tougher.
No, sir. I think it should not be much tougher because there is a limit for everything. No? There is a limit for every punishment. So it
Mhm.
should. So it should not be up to more than the fines or something that you can control the property. That is the correct thing, I think. Unless it
Okay,
is a I think it is enough up to the fines and penalties. It should not go beyond this.
okay,
Unless this
fair
these
enough.
fines are not one thing. If it is not paid, so then we
It is
can go
not
for that.
paid.
Like son is I mean to say deliberately not paying. He can pay, but deliberately not paying. For example, then in that case that is exception. Otherwise, we should not.
Okay, fair enough. That's a fair view. Thank you, Usman Saab. Thanks for your feedback. You can mute yourself again now. Okay, guys, so you have the perspective of the representation of our learned attendees. Let's go back to the main body that we were discussing, the Benami Transaction Prohibition Rules. So are you guys ready for perhaps one of the most interesting sections of the rules? Section 8 deals with the confiscation of the property under subsection 1 of section 25. It states that where an order of the confiscation of property under subsection 1 of section 25 has been made, the adjudicating authority shall send a copy of the order to the approving authority. where an order referred to in Rule 1 has been received by the approving authority in respect of any immovable property, he shall, the approving authority in this regard, shall forthwith direct the administrator to proceed to take any or all steps mentioned in this sub-rule, issue notice to the concerned authority of the federal government or a provincial government or a local body or an authority or any person or officer who is responsible for recording the registration of any property. So it could be the different um, private societies, or it could be the relevant patwari, etc., etc., or maintaining its record of ownership as the case may be, having jurisdiction for the purposes of registration of such immovable property, intimating them that the property has been confiscated under the act, and arranged to place a copy of the notice at some conspicuous part of the immovable property which is visible to all clearly for the benefit of general public, mentioning clearly there in English and in vernacular language, which is the local common language, that the property has been confiscated under the act and vests absolutely in the federal government. Rule 3, um, sub-rule 3, or section as you want to refer to it, where an order referred to in sub-rule 1 has been received by the approving authority in respect of any movable property, he shall forthwith direct the administrator to proceed to take any or all steps mentioned in this sub-rule, forthwith issue a notice to the authority or person having the custody of such movable property, informing them that the property has been confiscated under the act, and sell the property if the property is liable to speedy and natural decay, or the expenses for maintenance are likely to exceed its value, with the written approval of the concerned adjudicating authority, and deposit the sale proceeds in the nearest government treasury or branch of the State Bank of Pakistan, Federal Treasury, or in any bank branch of National Bank of Pakistan in fixed deposit, and retain the receipt thereof as evidence. Provided that where owner of the property furnishes fixed deposit receipt of State Bank of Pakistan or Federal Treasury or National Bank of Pakistan equivalent to the value of property in the name of the administrator, the approving authority may accept and retain such fixed deposit receipt as a security and would not need to sell the property then. Provided further that where the movable property is a mode of conveyance of any description, the approving authority, after obtaining its valuation report for the motor licensing authority or any other authority as the case may be, may accept and retain fixed deposit receipt of the SBP or the Federal Treasury or NBP equivalent to value of the movable property as a security in the name of the administrator, and won't need to sell it then, and cause to deposit the property consisting of cash, government, or other securities or bullions or jewelry or other valuables in a locker in the name of the administrator or in the form of the fixed deposit as the case may be in the SBP or in any branch of NBP, and retain the receipt thereof. Basically, it's telling how to deal with all the various types: immovable property, cash, convertibles, movable vehicles. Cost to get the property in the form of shares, debentures, units of collective investment schemes, and instrument to be transferred in the favor of administrator, and issue a direction to the bank or financial institution as the case may be to transfer and credit the amount of money to the account of the administrator where the property is in the form of cash in a bank or the financial institution, and this is all done by the approving authority directing the administrator to do this. Whew. So quite detailed here. Now, before we talk about receipt of confiscated property under subsection 1 of section 26, do you have any questions about anything that we have covered till now? If you have any questions, I'll be giving you 30 seconds. If we don't start receiving any questions, I'll assume that you're understanding everything and we need to go back to the main presentation. Okay, so let's see, 30 seconds. Do we have any questions? So Nizam, are 30 seconds up yet?
Thank you, sir. We have an old question from Mohammed Ijaz.
Okay.
He says many companies get a confidentiality clause signed from their employees. Is this the way of overcoming whistleblowers?
Yes, whistleblowing is being legally protective. So no matter if somebody gets you to sign an illegal deal, that would not hold in the court of law. So for example, if somebody gets you to sign an agreement that you'll kill someone because the act in itself is illegal, by signing an agreement, it would not get any legal sanctity. So if a company asks its employees to sign something that is to cover up something illegal or to do something illegal, first, as a professional, we should not do that. Secondly, if it's a generic thing and we are not aware that it's something illegal and we sign and they are employing this to protect something illegal, no, it would not hold any sanctity in a court of law. Hope that answers your question.
Rao Ali Zishan, what if the property is used for providing essential services like banking, healthcare, etc.?
Rao Saab, you also attended this session on the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act. Did you anywhere see any mention of exception? That if the property is providing essential services, then it can continue to be a benami. So this is like a smuggler get caught and donate the smuggling proceeds, and would that make the crime legal? No, it won't. So as the law stands right now, it doesn't matter what the purpose is that is being carried out in the property at the moment, it would still be regarded as a benami if all the other conditions are met, and the treatment should be similar. There can be a provision, I mean, the government might continue to provide those services in that property, but that's a different debate. As far as the law is concerned, it's pretty clear in this regard. Next one, please.
Waqas Rafiq, I have a question regarding property. Recently, Ishaq Dar property is seized. Is this the same case Benami property being captured by government?
No, Vakas, I have to go through the details, but as I can recall, it's because he is an absconder. So that's a different law. If somebody gets a bail and then they don't appear before the court of law and become absconder. The court delivers several notices and reminders. There's a detailed procedure. Then they ask their guarantor, etc., etc. If everything else fails, then they start attaching their property. Plus, Mr. Dar also have some NAP cases, so it could be due to either of those. But I am pretty confident because we are keeping very up to speed with the Benami case laws, etc. Everything, it wasn't about a Benami property as far as I can recall. Hope that answers the question. Next one.
Zishan Majid, can the person pay the amount instead of property being confiscated along with fine?
No, the property will be confiscated because there is a cash 22, no? The property value will keep on increasing. But if you want to appeal, you want to do something like that, and you couldn't do that before, and you don't want the property to be disposed, meanwhile, you can pay that amount, provide the deposit slip as we discussed, and it would act as a security, and they would not dispose of the property. Next one.
Mohammad Wasim Akhtar, once proved, what will be the treatment of Benami property?
We have covered that in detail, and that's what we've been discussing. It would be confiscated by the government, in addition to the possibility of the fine as well as the prosecution and jail term. Next one.
Muhammad Anas Elias, hi. A person receives inquiry notice and ask about to tell about the property that has been sold 4 to 5 years back. Is there any time period law defined by law regarding which you have to provide evidence for?
No. For Benami, there is no time bar. However, I think, Anas, you haven't attended the last session on the Act. We discussed this in detail, and I mentioned that the senior legal partner, managing partner of our firm, of the legal side, Mr. Zahir Ahmed Mir, who's been ex-legal advisor, Federal Land Commission, and a very learned personality, has filed a reference to the Lahore High Court on a point of law, which is that FBR is practically using a concept of continuing crime. It's an alien concept to Pakistani law, but it's been used in some judgments, judgments of the nature that have been called into question, some constitutional and political judgments. Let me put it that way. So FPR is trying to use that and say even the properties that were transacted and purchased before the enactment of the act and were not disposed of on the date of the enactment of the act would fall within the purview. If that happens, then all the effective time bars are removed. Otherwise, our understanding and belief is that the purpose and intention of the act is to only prosecute from the date of act and henceforth, and it does make a sense. A crime cannot be a crime if it happens at a time when it was not described as a crime. Otherwise, where would it end? You will keep on making laws and declaring previous instances as crime. So for example, today you can declare your property at FBR value. Tomorrow a law comes that says declaring property value at anything less than market value is a crime. Fair enough, but that should be effective from that day onward. Na? If they say no, it would be implemented from any time in the past, that is a constitutional violation. You would say, well, I acted in line with the law that you told me was in existence. I was a law abiding citizen. How can I be punished for something that was not a crime there? So hope you understand the point there. Anyway, with regard to providing the records, there is no time bar. Hope that answers the question in pretty much detail.
Hadi Hussain, property of deceased person comes under Benami property, question mark.
Property of deceased person. It depends if all the other requirements are met. It can be a Benami. Being deceased does not mean that the property cannot be Benami. However, it makes it less likelier unless there are specific reasons to be investigated, but there's nothing prohibiting it from being investigated. Do we have more questions?
We have two more questions.
Okay, that's good. First, we were not getting questions. Now we are getting a lot of questions. But this is good because that's the best way to learn anything. Carry on, please, Nizam.
Nuruddin Behmani, if someone purchase Benami property, will purchase be penalized?
If someone purchased Benami property, will purchaser be penalized is, I believe, what he wants to ask. Obviously, when the Benami property will be transferred, if this is during the investigation period, it can't happen. And if it is transferred, then there is a possibility that um, actually this is a very complex scenario. You have to give the specifics because the answer would differ. So for example, Nuruddin, and by the way, it's a good question. So for example, Nuruddin Saab, if let's say that you purchased a Benami property while it's being investigated, and for some reason the investigating officer hasn't yet attached the property. Now obviously you would be in the line of fire. Let's say you purchased it when it was not being investigated, but you were aware that it was a Benami property. You would again be in the line of fire. So there have to be the specifics, and different scenario might yield different answers. Hope that answers the question. Next one.
Rao Ali Zishan, what about accounting reporting of fine paid by a company in connection of a Benami transaction? As Benami transaction was never on the company books, how external auditors will view it?
Well, it's not purview of today's topic, but it's a good question. I'll just give you a hint. Being a qualified accountant, you have been levied a fine for a fraud. Now imagine how the external auditors will view it. The risk assessment would shoot through the roof. the sample size would increase manifold. The cost of audits and the likeliness of a qualified opinion would definitely increase. So there are many considerations that would need to be seen. How it would be booked? Cash would go out of your company's account and the fine as an expense would be booked. Simple. Next one. Nuruddin
Hussain
said
Hadi,
yes, we answered his question. Okay, good to know. And then Nuruddin thanked. You are welcome, Nuruddin. Please continue.
Hussain Hadi, can you please repeat the conditions of Benami property?
Yes, I can. But the question is why I should. Did you not attend last session? Nizam, how many times did we discuss the conditions in the last session?
Many, sir. Actually, I believe Hussain Hadi just joined today. He wasn't with us in the previous sessions.
Okay, the recording of the previous session will be available. Again, I mentioned the YouTube channel. You guys can subscribe, search my name, Omar Zahir Mir. You'll have the recordings there. But okay, as a courtesy, I will share this. But henceforth, please focus only on today's session, the relevant question. So Hadi Saab, especially for you on your request, the prime conditions for a Benami transaction in crux are that the property should be in another person's name who is not actual beneficial owner. It should be paid by someone else, and the person who paid for it would either currently or expect in the future to receive some benefit. So these are the prime conditions. Then it's quite a detailed discussion. There are different proviso. What will happen in case of blood relation, in case of your direct descendant or ascendants, the condition to have joint accounts, etc., etc. But the prime is what I discussed with you, and I hope that answers you. Tala is saying how to view the other webinars of ACCA later. I think Tala must have joined us later because I discussed this in extensive details. ACCA send you email on quarterly basis. If you want to see it quickly, then on my YouTube channel and social media, you'll get the recordings in a few days time. If you prefer YouTube, go there, search my name, and you'll have all the recordings. I think we have answered all the questions, right, Nizam?
We have, sir.
Fantastic. That's good. Let's go back to the main body of rules then. So, receipt of confiscated property. The administrator shall, at the time of receiving the confiscated property, ensure proper identification of property with reference to its particular is made in the order under subsection 1 of section 22, and with the approval of approving authority, establish one or more warehouses for the safekeeping of attached and confiscated movable property. Okay, that brings us to the question how to manage the confiscated property. Only the properties where the management expenses are expected to be very high, or where we expect that the value might decrease, or where there is a rational reason, as we have already discussed, we can dispose of the property. If these conditions do not apply, and we mean FBR officials, the government officials, are not disposing of the property, then the question should arise that how would they manage the property, what would they do with it, and how to go about that. Let's find out. So sub rule 1 of rule 10 says where the property confiscated is of such a nature that its removal from the place of attachment is impractical, or its removal involves expenditure out of proportion to the value of the property, administrator shall arrange for proper maintenance and custody of the property at the place of its attachment. One prime example would be a house. How would you detach the house? So you have to ensure for the proper maintenance and custody of the property. If the property confiscated consists of cash, garment or other securities, bullion, gold, jewelry or other valuables, the administrator shall cause to deposit them for safe custody in the nearest government treasury or a branch of the National Bank of Pakistan or the State Bank of Pakistan. The administrator shall maintain a register for recording details in respect of such movable assets as cash, government securities, bullion, jewelry, valuables that they have deposited. the administrator shall obtain a receipt from the treasury or the bank, as the case may be, against the deposit and retain them, and shall maintain in respect of immovable property a register containing the details in the form as specified in part 2 of the first schedule of these rules, which I'll show you in a bit. But how to dispose of a confiscated property, where the federal government has directed that the property vests under it in terms of subsection 3 of section 25, and it should be disposed of under subsection 3 of section 26. The administrator shall arrange the disposal of the property in the manner as provided for same in the income tax rules 2002 to the extent applicable under this act. Okay, before we proceed, let me share with you our experience. So far, we have seen that the officers deputed under Benami are very hardworking. They are competent. Many of them, most of them have a good repute of honesty. However, one odd thing is that because they have the departmental pressure, if you have started investigating and you have used sufficient resources for that, it becomes so much difficult to go back to your senior and say what you should in that instance, because you are in a position of trust, and if something is not liable as per law, you should be able to go back and tell that. But that's in theory. Unfortunately, in practice, we have seen it's very challenging. So that's one area where the government would also need to see that even genuine cases which are not Benami otherwise, but are investigated, would possibly have to go through the appeal process, consultants, etc., to get out of this hole. So while it's very admirable that we have such a legislation to curb the menace of money laundering and illegal monies, but we need to make certain provisions in terms of safeguarding the genuine people who actually haven't committed a crime. Okay, let's move forward to rule number 12, which deals with the next forum. Okay, so the case has been decided against you and the property has been attached and all that. What can you do? Do you have a relief or not? What would you do? As we discussed in other session and more so in the last one on the Benami Transaction Prohibitions Act, Benami Transactions Prohibition Act 2017, our constitution allows judicial remedy. It allows a person different platforms to appeal and the judicial rights, and same is the case in this set of legislation too. So an appeal can be made to the Federal Appellate Tribunal as the first instance, and subrule 1 of Rule 12 states that an appeal to the Federal Appellate Tribunal under subsection 1 of Section 44 shall be filed in the form as specified in part 3 of the first schedule to these rules, which I'll show you. The form under subrule 1 shall be accompanied by a fee of 1,000 rupee. It's pretty much the fee that you file for filing an appeal with the Commissioner Appeals that we have discussed in one of the CPD sessions of this scenario. So basically, all these numbers in this document is normally referred to as rule, like Rule 12, Rule 13, and the subsections are referred to as subrules. So whenever you see a reference to a section, that is mainly to the main body of law, the Benami relevant section of the Benami Transaction Prohibitions Act. So subsection 1 of section 44 means, as we have already covered under the rules, a reference to the relevant section of the Benami Transaction Prohibitions Act 2017. Just a quick reminder. Anyway, subrule 3 of Rule 12, the form under subrule 1 shall set forth concisely and under distinct head the grounds of objections to the order appealed against, and such grounds shall be numbered consecutively and shall specify the address of service at which the notice or other processes of the Federal Appellate Tribunal may be served upon, basically the correspondence address on the appellant and the date on which the order appealed against was served on the appellant, where the appeal is preferred after expiry of a period of 45 days referred to in subsection 1 of section 44. It shall be accompanied by a petition in quadruplicate 4 copies. Duly verified and supported by the documents, if any, relied upon by the appellant, showing cause as to how the appellant had been prevented from preferring the appeal within the period of 45 days. Now, before we go through the terms and conditions of the service of the chairperson and members of the appellate tribunal, I think this is the right time to actually show you these relevant forms. So have a look now. First schedule part 1. This is how the officer would maintain the record of the management of the confiscated property register. So they'll put an order number, date of receipt of property, description of the property, if it's movable, the quantity, amount and estimated value, name and address of the benamidar and beneficial owner if his identity is known, name and address of the treasury or bank where the properties are deposited for safe custody, date and time of deposit of confiscated properties in the treasury or bank, receipt number with the date of receipt obtained from the treasury or bank, remarks of the administrator, signature and name with date and seal. And that was for movable property. What if they have retained some, they have confiscated some immovable property? It's pretty much same. There are some minute differences depending on due to the nature of the property being immovable. So there would again be the order number. Order mean the relevant order that was issued to confiscate the property. The date of receipt of properties, description of properties. So in case of land, the area, survey number, plot number, location, and complete address. In case of a building, the house number, location, and complete address, name and address of the benamidar and beneficial owner if his identity is known, and then remarks of the administrator followed by his signature, name, date, and seal. And the seal would also come in the register for movable property. And now we will discuss how the appeal is lodged, the form of appeal to the Federal Appellate Tribunal. And after this, I'll take a quick Q&A break. So now is the time to start writing your questions if you have any in the Q&A section, in the questions section that you have in your panel for the webinar. So part 3 under Rule 12 Sub-Rule 1, we have the form of appeal to the Federal Appellate Tribunal. It states under Section 44 of the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 2017. Obviously, you'll be filing an appeal under that. From mention the name and address of the appellant here, and it would be addressed to the registrar of the Federal Appellate Tribunal. And then you'll have the address of the Federal Appellate Tribunal. The above named appellant hereby prefers his appeal under Section 44 of the Benami Transaction Prohibitions Act 2017. Against, you have to mention the order number and its date, passed by the adjudicating authority, the name, address of the adjudicating authority. Normally, their designation address is sufficient, but enter the name if you have, under the said act on the following facts and ground. And then for facts, you'll mention the brief facts of the case. So practically, there is not enough space. So you assign the paper as an enclosure detailing all the facts, and the copies of any annexures, the relevant documents to support the facts that you are mentioning. Similarly, you'll mention any grounds on which the appeal is preferred. Again, you can mention that on separate papers. Obviously, one would have detailed grounds if they are properly prepared, and you won't have enough space in the form. So mention them in the separate document and enclose that as an enclosure, and cross-reference in this section that the grounds are as per enclosed document X of pages A to Z, whatever. And then it would mention the prayer that in light of what is stated above, the appellant prays for the following relief, and then the relief sought, specify the relief sought, and then the declaration that the fee payable for this appeal as mentioned in sub-rule 2 of the rule has been deposited in the form of demand draft with the registrar, Federal Appellate Tribunal. You'll put in the address, the signature of the appellant, you'll mention the receipt number and date and the name of the appellant, and then you'll sign an oath that I, the appellant, do hereby declare the facts stated above are true to the best of my knowledge and belief. Mention the date on which they are verifying, sign, put their name, list the document as enclosure, mention the place where you are signing this and the date, and that's it. And what you can do, you can actually form this appeal in the same pattern that we have covered in the CPDs on filing the appeal to Commissioner Appeal and Appellate Tribunal, and those pattern amended appropriately to address this can also be used. And the good news for you is that both of those sessions are available on the YouTube channel. Let me even show you. So this is the YouTube channel. You can just write my name here and you'll get this channel, Omar Zahir Mir. So click on this channel and then click on the videos. You can also click on the search bar and search directly. I've logged in as an admin, so I can even see the videos which are yet to be released for you every single day from today. Today's video has already been released, but every single day all the way till 18th April, every day at 12 in afternoon, a new video will be released on this. Anyway, what I was referring to here is the recording of the session on filing an appeal to the appellate tribunal. You can click this and listen to it in detail. That should come in really handy. Similarly, filing of an appeal to Commissioner Appeal, you also have this session here. You can play this and learn from it. So you have all these resources at your disposal. Make use of them. Now, before I continue with the rest of the rule, in fact, we have reached pretty much the end of the rules, the final rule, rule number 13. I think this is the appropriate time to hold the Q&A session and the poll too. So I think what we can do is we can just quickly do a poll. And let me also show you another thing. So if, for example, you want to see ACCA's channel, the reason I showed you my channel is because ACCA now normally upload the CPDs on a quarterly basis, as I've been told by Nizam. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nizam, and that is on the on specific platform GoToWebinar. But we have ACCA Pakistan's channel here. You can also see this channel. You mostly now have the latest videos on brand recognition and development, but you do have a good collection of ACCA's webinar and past CPDs. These include my videos and videos of other trainers as well on different lectures. So you have one of my video appearing, one of other person's video appearing, but these are past videos. I think they mostly belong to 2017 or so. So you can also avail this as a resource too. Just a quick heads up to you guys. Anyway, let's quickly conduct a poll, and after the poll, we'll answer your questions. So you can keep typing in your questions if you haven't done so. Now that we have almost reached the end of the rules, the question that we should ask ourselves, and you as professionals should ask yourselves is, do you think that these Benami Transaction Prohibition Rules 2019 adequately cover the practicalities of dealing with the Benami cases? If not, why not? And I will be taking some feedback from you. So do think while you are answering. Again, you have two options of yes and no, and your time starts now. And again, you'll have 2 minutes. All the best. Happy voting. Okay, we have started receiving votes, and most of the people are saying yes, and it has changed. No, from a mere 9 jumped on to 25, back to 17. Very interesting. Okay, and back to 20. So many people think it's not adequate. Okay, very interesting. We'll be asking them why, though a clear majority, about 80%, says no, this is sufficient. Okay. Okay, guys, about 44 seconds have passed now, and you have about 1 minute and 11 seconds left now. Come on, guys, make your voice heard. Do vote. While they are voting, Nizam, our next expected session is on which topic? Value proposition and
Uh, Let me check, sir.
sure.
And earning power.
Okay. So guys, I had a head start for you. You would be receiving an email from ACCA about the next session, which is expected to be early next week, inshallah. And that is on a topic that interests many of you. And we continue to receive many queries. How can we earn more? How can we deliver value? If I'm doing my job, my employer is not appreciating, why not, etc., etc. So that session will be answering all that. I have taken a few seconds of yours, so I'll be giving you some more time. Come on, guys, vote in the poll, make your voice heard. We have received about just under a third of participants vote. The time is limited. I won't be extending it much more, just 30 seconds more, so make your voice heard. Come on, guys, do you think these rules are adequate or not? Nizam, you can also cast your vote. You are also ACCA finalist.
Organizers and panelists cannot vote.
Can I show you a magic?
Sure.
Let me just make you vote. So what do you think? Are these adequate or not in your professional opinion? And the poll ends
Uh,
now.
I think it does for now, but as president said, uh, and for those not set, we'll for future we'll get more coverage in the act as soon
Good.
as we move ahead. So there's
Nizam,
always
I feel I'm rubbing onto you. The nature of your answers are changing now. That's a good thing. A very professional answer. Okay, first of all, before I comment further, the result of the poll: 80% have voted that yes, we think that the Benami transaction prohibition rules 2019 are sufficient, are adequate to address the challenges. About 20% believe that no, these are not adequate. The thing is this, yes, these are adequate for now, but the challenge that we'll face, this is a new law. This is still very much in infancy stages. It would develop, there would be case laws, and we can see that the law would develop. Thereby, the taxation authorities, by virtue of the powers vested by the federal government in line with whatever the parliament would pass, would be adding, deleting, or making other changes to these rules. I can foresee that. So I think the answers of both group that voted yes or no can be deemed correct in their own perspective. I had promised to take feedback from one participant on each side. So I have covered the crux. You won't be allowed to say what I said. You would have to tell me something additional, why you voted the way you voted. Can we just unmute any one person who voted yes, Nizam?
allow me some time, please.
Sure. Meanwhile, guys, keep your questions coming, because after this, I'll be answering your questions. Okay, guys, I'm giving you about 1 minute while Nizam is searching to unmute our participants. You can type in the questions if you have any, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And if you have no questions, then that one question that was left unanswered, I'll answer that. The one question that was not directly relevant to say so.
Okay, seems that I cannot extract who voted yes or no. So we can
Okay.
ask members to push
Then
in
is it Yeah.
with a yes or
Can
no.
you just type in that whether you voted yes or no, and then Nizam would have to pick and choose any one member from either side. So please just type whether you voted yes or no in the poll. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, we need some people who voted no as well, please. Okay, let's do the first no one. Muhammad Sharif Saab. Could you please unmute Muhammad Sharif Saab?
He's unmuted.
Assalamu alaikum Sharif Saab. How are you?
Walaikum salam, Sir Umar. I'm good. What about, and hope that you are fine as well.
I'm very well, sir. Thank you. Where have you joined us today from? Which city?
From Lahore.
Fantastic. Are you staying at home or going to work?
No, we are staying home, taking
That's
precautionary measures.
that's very good and wise of you, sir, and very responsible. So you voted no, and that means you don't believe these rules are adequate. You can't say what I said. Uh,
Yes.
in addition to that, why do you think these rules are not adequate?
One thing I observed that the cost which will come in maintaining the property, especially the immovable one, who will be charged, who will eat that expense, and secondly, the estimation value which will be conducted wholly on part of the officer. There are major chances that it can be manipulated. So, what are the checks and balances on that?
Okay,
That's it.
that's a very, very good observation. What do you do, Sharif Saab?
Well, I have 8 years experience in UAE, and now
MashaAllah.
I am in my company as a interior designing firm in Lahore, THA. Because my
Interior
brother is
design.
a designer,
An
so I am.
accountant in interior designing. Wow.
No, actually, I am I am heading the support roles,
Financial
basically
side.
the HR and the finance side. So he is the
Okay.
technical guy. So the
Okay.
partnership is there.
Okay. That's fantastic. We wish you all the best, sir. Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you.
That's great. So, a valid observation. Basically, what Sharif Saab said is number one, as the law should, the law hasn't specified who would be bearing the cost of maintenance, though it's common sense, but it needs to be specified in black and white. Secondly, where there are no values available, the commissioner has been given, the officer has been given the authority to actually prescribe the value, which is highly subjective. Both are valid consideration. Well done, sir. Now, can you, Nizam, now I will give you this right to choose anyone who has answered yes and kindly unmute them.
For sure, sir. Okay, seems like the person I chose is not attentive, so I'll be selecting someone else.
Mhm. Come on, you are a military family guy. Your decision-making power should be strong. Quick.
Okay, so Zishan Majid, I'm unmuting you. Please unmute yourself as well.
Great. Assalamu alaikum, Zishan. Can you hear me? You are there, Zishan, so you need to unmute your mic. It would be appearing on your webinar participation panel. Let's wait for 10 seconds. If Zishan couldn't do it, then you can unmute Kamal Asghar or Saqib Ali Rashidi Sahab.
Sure.
Okay, let's do that.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Assalamu alaikum.
Hello. Walaikum assalam, sir. How are you, sir?
So I'm very well, and who am I speaking to? Zishan?
Yeah, this is Zishan, sir. Zishan Majid, yes.
Okay, what happened, Zishan? Where were you lost?
No, actually, sir, the mic was not unmuted by the organizer, so I was trying to, it was not popped up because the icon was dull at that time. Now it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, that could be internet lag. How are you today?
So I'm great, thank you.
Great, great. So, Zishan Sahab, you voted yes, that you are satisfied with these rules, and you have listened to my conversation with Sharif Sahab
Yes, sir.
already. What do you think? Why are you satisfied?
Because initially the law does cover maximum aspect. What Sharif Saab said can be interpreted by the further clarification and all, but as I'm concerned, a lot of aspects have been covered in this act, and I've attended your live um, conference at Lahore Chamber of Commerce once, and after that I've been studying this law, and I think it does cover quite aspects of the real matters in our professional
Okay.
life though. Yeah.
Okay, so
Hello.
It seems like we have lost Umar Zahir Mir for a while, so we'll wait. So please stand by.
All right.
hello, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Apologies for
assalam, sir.
the minor hiccup. I think I got locked out of the system. I was talking to Zishan. Is he still there?
Hello.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
So, Zishan Sab, I was saying basically what I understood from your points is that you believe that all the major important points have been covered in the rules, and the minute things can later on be clarified by way of a circular or notification, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Great. So, what do you do? And where are you joining us from today? Lahore, I presume? As you mentioned,
Yes,
you
sir.
attended Lahore Chambers event. Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
great.
I'm an auditor, and
MashaAllah.
Yes, and I do tax practice in a part-time.
So an auditor and a tax practitioner, a killer
Yes.
combination, an all-rounder, we can say, right?
No, sir. Actually, I've studied law, and I just finished this year, and
Okay.
I'm trying to get into that taxation field.
Okay.
I'm trying to yeah. I don't want to switch right now. I'm just gonna switch in future because it's more emerging field, I think.
Hmm. Oh, it's the most happening field at the moment in
Yes.
Pakistan for finance professional, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much for your input. One last thing,
Yes, sir.
which session did you enjoy more, the chamber session or today's session? I do know there is
Sir,
a limitation because
yes, sir. Yes.
we can't be in person, but the other thing is that this is happening at a time when most of the other activities have been shut down.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's a
Sir,
very difficult question for you.
yes, sir. The thing was, when I attended your a seminar, because it was the amnesty time, and I was trying to get into that thing, and I had a couple of people that
Oh,
I
you
have
attended the
assisted.
one on amnesty, not on this topic, because I had a
Yes,
session on Benami in chamber too. You didn't attend that one.
I think I have attended that too, sir.
Okay. Anyway, I would
Yeah.
get you out of your misery. Let's not make comparisons. Thank you very much for your participation and your feedback.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, guys, that's good. I will be answering your questions, but I think let's just finish off the last rule for the day, and then we'll have a few minutes left to answer the questions. So Rule 13 deals with the terms and conditions of service of the chairpersons and members of the Federal Appellate Tribunal. So for the purposes of subsection 1 of section 13 of the Act, which is the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act, the chairperson and members of the Federal Appellate Tribunal shall respectively be entitled to the pay allowances and other benefits specified in the column of the table below, namely, the chairperson would receive the pay allowances and other benefits admissible prior to his appointment as chairperson, or pay allowances and benefits admissible immediately before his retirement, and monthly Federal Appellate Tribunal allowance of 400,000, and the members would receive the additional allowance of 300,000. So again, the same pattern as we have seen before, and I just missed that. It was not the last one. In fact, we have a few more left, but it was pretty much the second last page of the day. The rest of them are really small, so let's quickly conclude them. Rule 14 deals with the removal of chairperson and members from office in certain circumstances. So the process to do that would be that Secretary Law and Justice Division, in pursuance with the approval of the federal government, would file a reference before the Chief Justice of the High Court for inquiry against the chairperson and members, whether or not suspended on charges as may be specified under subsection 1 of section 33 of the Act. Not enough time, but that's the way the judicial process is being done after the last major judicial policy. So it has to be a reference before the judiciary itself. The reference under sub rule 1 shall be filed before the Chief Justice, in whose territorial jurisdiction the chairperson and members of the bench, whether or not suspended, are seated. If they have to be removed for any ill doing, the Chief Justice of the High Court, after receipt of the reference filed, shall inform the chairperson and members whether or not suspended of the charges leveled against them and seek their written defense. The Chief Justice of the High Court may further seek explanations and may hear in person the chairperson and members before submission of the inquiry report, and the Chief Justice of the High Court shall conclude the inquiry and transmit a report thereof to the federal government through Secretary Law and Justice Division within 60 days of the receipt of the reference. The staff of the Federal Appellate Tribunal, the officers and employees of this tribunal, shall be entitled to such salaries and allowances as civil servants of the federal government of the same basic pay scales and statuses are entitled to Then 16 deals with the reward for the whistleblowers. This we have already covered. If the price of Benami property is 2 million or less, it would be 5% of the price. 2 million to 5 million, it would be 100,000 plus 4% of the price of property. In excess of 2 million and over 5 million, it would be 220,000 plus 3% of the price of the Benami property in excess of the 5 million. And the conditions stand that the information that is supplied should not already be in public domain. It should result in the confiscation of the property, and these rewards would only be made after the process attain finality. So while I'll be answering your questions, as I promised, you have on your screen the contact details. The best way to reach me would be on LinkedIn. Do connect there. I'll strive to answer all your queries. If you do decide to instead send me an email or send me a message through the company website or send me a WhatsApp message, please introduce yourself. We still have some time left, so let's answer the questions. And after we are done with all the questions, if we have time left, then let us also answer the one question that was not relevant. And before I answer your question, I would like to do the customary thank to all the team, especially the entire ACCA team, Nizam, who has been supporting us throughout all these CPDs and also assisting us in the Q&A session. Thank you, Nizam. You have been fantastic. Members of my team who have supported us in drawing up these presentations, especially Ali, my partner Ali Zahir Mir, who has been fantastic and is a member of the taxation subcommittee of ACCA and also the chair of Lahore Tax Bar's Liaison Committee. Thank you for your support. It couldn't have been possible without you all guys. And to all our members who took their precious time and attended all these sessions, especially today's session, please share about the recordings, the YouTube channel, the social media in your circle, so maximum people can benefit. Now over to you, Nizam, if you could please ask the questions.
Thank you and for the kind words, sir. Rao Ali Zishan, as you mentioned that this law was inspired by a foreign country, do you have a tab on how this law was fared in that country? I understand the result will not be similar to Pakistan. However, first reactions/response set the pace for future. Also, did that country also had law institution similar to NAB?
That's a very good question, Rao Ali Zishan. Basically, Ali is referring to my last session on the Benami Transaction Prohibitions Act 2017. Those who haven't attended that can watch the recording on the YouTube channel that I've referred to. The thing is this, that while we did get this law inspired by their bill, not by their act, so the final act that came out was a bit different. That was more in tune with the ground realities there. Some penalties might be harsher or less harsher depending on your view. The way it has fared is that there's a difference in the government institutions culture. So we still have to see how things go here. Also because our legislation draft was based on their bill. So it is not exactly similar. So for example, um, they clarified that there is no continuing effect there, and we have the continuing effect here. So that's a different thing, and it's currently sub judice, so we can't comment on that. I think we have to wait a bit for some legal matters and point of laws to be settled by the court of law before we can really comment on the prospects of how this would fare in Pakistan. But FBR is quite determined to make it work. Whether that country had a NAP, no, they did not have NAP. They had different institution with different purview. I hope that answers your question. Next one.
So we
Okay,
don't have any
before
more.
you ask the next question, Waqas Afiq has asked, that he saw my laptop battery going down. Even when it appears like this much Vakas, like really the end, it's actually 28% left, which is like on this presentation, I would say about last at least about an hour. So it's quite good in that. Anyway, we have answered all the question, Nizam.
We certainly have, sir.
Okay, great. There was one question that was asked. Could you please locate for us while I read everyone's comment? I had promised that if I would have some time at the end, I would answer his question. It was not directly related, and it was about some specific scenario.
I'll try to look up, sir.
That would be great. Thank you. Meanwhile, I'll just go through thank you messages. Um, okay, Nabil Ibrahim is saying excellent and informative series. Thank you very much for your time and efforts, Omar Bhai. So nice of you. Thank you very much, Nabil Bhai. It's a team effort. Thanks to the entire team and the entire ACCA. And it's our pleasure. We are glad we have been able to deliver value to you. Please let us know what are the topics you would like to see CPDs on, and inshallah, we'll try to make that happen. Nuruddin Sahab also thanked. You are you are welcome. Sarmad has thanked. I don't know whether this is in this context or elsewhere, but you are welcome, Sarmad. And Hussain Hadi is saying it was my question asked related to beneficiary. So Nizam, you can locate for Hussain Hadi's questions. Rashid Hanif is saying, when is next series gonna start? It's continuing, Rashid. You have the next CPD coming up next week, inshallah. Wakas is saying, great work, Wakas Ahmed, thank you. Rao Ali Zishan, very interactive and engaging session. Thank you, Umar Sahab. You are welcome. Thank you, guys. Your feedback motivates us, and thanks for your active participation. Rashid Hanif is saying, Mashallah, sir, you are excellent. Thank you, Rashid. It's all Almighty's grace. We just try to do our best for you. Inayat Kiom is saying, all three of your CPDs were very informative and helpful. Thank you very much. You are most welcome, Inayat. We hope to see you in more CPDs. Actually, we delivered 3 more before you joined, and we'll be delivering more next week. And thank you very much for your participation. Muhammad Ijaz, excellent session, sir. Very much informative and much needed. You are most welcome. Wakas Ahmed, is it possible to arrange webinar covering AML CFT? Absolutely, that's already been recommended, my friend. Inshallah, we'll be delivering them. Munib Said, thanks for a wonderful session. This was a very informative session. Can we cover the asset declaration ordinance in future? Munib, asset declaration ordinance was covered by ACCA, and its recording will be available on my YouTube channel. I'll upload that for you. Hussain Hadi is saying, I highly appreciate efforts of ACCA, Omar Zahir Saab and your team, and great efforts by ACCA. Thank you, Hussain, from everyone. Thank you, guys. Did you locate Hussain's question yet?
I have,
Please
sir,
go
and
ahead
it
and ask that.
is. Can you please repeat the conditions of Benami property? I believe this is a
No,
question.
that was already answered.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. A property of deceased person comes under Benami property question mark.
Just bear with me, guys, for a second. Sorry about that, guys. It was a very, very important call, so it had to be taken up about AML that we were discussing. Anyway, guys, so Nizam, did you locate his other question?
Yes, I have.
He's asking,
Go ahead,
I'd
ask.
like to ask that
Mhm.
if a person buy the property due to any reason, register the property to his family members, can it cover
Mhm.
in Benami property? Beneficiary of the asset is someone else who had purchased the
Yes,
property and had its documents.
got that. Unfortunately, the answer is yes. Rest to discuss the specific, Hussein, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. And then we got some wonderful messages by all of you of thanks. Not possible to read them all, but I'll quickly read the names. Hussein, Hadi, Usman Khan, Murtaza, Shariar Ayub, Sayyid Tala. Thank you guys for your wonderful feedback, your kind compliments. They keep us motivated. Hopefully, I'll see you all in the next session. Stay safe, take care of yourself. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel too and share it with the other people so they can benefit as well. Take care, guys. Thank you again. Have a good day.